Welcome to week 5 of internal and external communication. This week we're going to be looking at reputation management, which is really interesting. We're going to be looking at some key theories that influence and help us understand how to manage an individual's or a business's reputation. So let's begin by considering what a corporate reputation might be. It can be defined as the overall estimation in which an organisation is held by its internal and external stakeholders based on past actions, or a collective representation of images and perceptions. So you might say that it's everything that a person understands to be the case when they consider a particular organisation or person. And that it's a kind of a collection of, or a collective kind of understanding. So they're drawing on everything that they know in that moment about you. Reputations in this way are quite malleable things and quite amorphous, if you like, because remember they're a collection. So it's not just based on one incident or one piece of knowledge, but all of your history to date, really. Of course, reputations in the context of business involve or rely on relationships with stakeholders. And as we'll see time and again as we go through this lecture, that key relationship is really foundational in terms of the kind of reputation that you build. They can be gained or fostered and protected or even destroyed over time. So there's something that really needs to be paid attention to. We'll talk about later on about the importance of perhaps even having someone manage, really actively manage that reputation, because it's so fundamental in terms of, the strength of the business and profitability, and how stakeholders will relate to you. The reputation allows stakeholders to predict what a corporation is likely to do in the future based on what they've done in the past. So what stakeholders and consumers are doing is that they're extrapolating their expectations from what they know of you already. So a company with a strong reputation will attract ongoing and dedicated consumers, because they'll believe that based on past experience, they can rely on you moving forward. And likewise, once a reputation's been damaged and what that consumer or stakeholder is drawing on when they consider your past behaviour is something negative, they're going to lay that forward as well in terms of what they think of you moving into the future. Which is why it's very hard to recover, or it's challenging to recover from a bad reputation. Because a good reputation is so important in terms of attracting and keeping stakeholders and consumers, it increases corporate worth. So the basis upon which a company can be decreed a strong company is really to do with that reputation. Attaining and retaining customers, of course, is key in the reputation, but suppliers are also more likely to trust a reputable corporation. And perhaps part of that good reputation in the supply chain is to do with a company that can resolve disputes favourably, or who is actively managing their relationships with their stakeholders. Really interestingly, staff are more likely to apply for work in companies with good reputations. I think Google is perhaps one of those good examples of such a company, known for having a really interesting and innovative workplace, a great place to work. But there are other companies too that promote, staff well-being, good work-life balance, and all of those kinds of things. But also we might see that kind of relationship between staff and a good reputation as extending to companies that are seen to be doing good work or socially responsible work. Greenpeace might be an example of that, or what's another example? Say Oxfam, one of those corporations that's fundamentally ethical will attract staff even if the conditions for the staff aren't as favourable as perhaps another company that's doing similar work. The more ethical company, because of their good reputation, will attract staff who want to be aligned with that reputation, who want to draw on and be seen to be associated with that good reputation. It's really interesting to consider that, importantly, a company itself can't control or manage its own reputation. So we can't really control for what people will understand of us, the impression that they'll take away or receive from us. But rather, what we can control in our business and in ourselves is the way that we behave. So rather than attempting to manage the outcome, the reputation, the way people are perceiving us, we can control the dedication we bring to the work, our ethical standpoint. And another way of saying that is that if we work hard and we work ethically and we do everything we can to maintain good business practice, our reputation will form organically as an end to that work. But we can't make someone perceive us in a good light, is what I'm saying. A key component, though, that we can control for is the way in which we communicate this hard ethical work that we're doing. So what a company can do is it can control the information and the message that's getting out there about us, and advertising would be one key example of that. So a company must inform public of the good work it does. It must promote itself in a favourable light in order to establish its reputation. But that message must also be true. For that really strong reputation to build, it's not enough to simply say we are doing these things and then not do them. That won't generate the strong reputation that we need to be a business leader. But rather, we need to do the work first, promote it second, and that those two key components will be what generates that really strong reputation. Interestingly, and kind of underpinning that statement is that the experience that our stakeholders garner by relating to us or by engaging with us in the marketplace will really feed into our reputation, because if we are saying that we're doing the good work but we're not actually doing it, we'll be quickly uncovered by the people that are engaging with us, by our consumers. And particularly because of digital technologies, they now have the platforms to reveal their experience pretty quickly and broadly via the internet. So we'll be found out if we're not following through on the messages that we're delivering to the public. Some commentators reject the idea that reputation management is possible, but I think that if we focus on those three key things, doing good work, promoting that good work, and extending that good work to our stakeholders so that they can experience it, then that's as much as we can do to manage the development and longevity of our good reputations. So a good reputation has all of these benefits. It allows for preferential treatment, so people, consumers, stakeholders, choosing to engage with the company with a good reputation over ones with lesser reputations. And because of this, because we're more in demand, we're being preferenced, we can charge more for our products and services and therefore be more profitable. We'll also be given support in times of crisis. So the research shows that companies with good reputation, when things go wrong, they're more likely to be supported. And obviously, because we're charging more, because we're being preferenced by consumers, the financial value of the company increases. But consumer expectations will be high also. A company like Apple, which is a massive company with a good reputation, does have a high level of consumer expectation regarding the quality of the products, the quality of the service. Remember that consumers now have such a wealth of opportunity and information via the internet. For example, if they don't like something that they see in store, they can easily shop for a competitor online. So price point isn't the only reason that they're going to choose a product. They won't necessarily go for the cheapest product if the reputation of another product is particularly strong. But consumers are able to shop around now, and so that crucial differential, that good reputation, might make all the difference in terms of whether they buy product A or product B. So the example I was just talking about is an example of the Apple Store. It's the most profitable retailer on earth. It has this kind of very slick modern design. It doesn't actually even really necessarily look like a traditional retail store. But it does have a focus on the products, and the interesting differential there in this example is that in the Apple Store you're free to try the products. You're actually allowed to use and engage with the technology. It also has a customer focus. The staff are meant to be helpful and informative. It's kind of this low-key atmosphere that's been carefully constructed to be inclusive, to sort of appeal to the idea that the people in the shop are perhaps both everyman, anyone can use the products, and kind of experts, that Apple are for people who really care about design and technology. This speaks to this kind of idea that in public relations, as in all other pursuits, actions speak louder than words. So what you're doing, the work that you're doing, is more important than what you're saying you're doing. And in the Apple Store, that's the nexus for that idea, because the consumers coming into the store, they're experiencing the benefits of the technology, and they're experiencing sort of superior customer service, if you like. I've got a little example here, video example, that shows you the inside of an Apple Store and the kind of the buzz around this particular, PR operation for the company. So let's take a look. So you can see there in that, what was interesting to me about that video, considering the things that we're talking about, is that there was sort of minimal differential between the staff and the consumer. It's like this idea that the staff are one of us, and conversely, anyone can use these products. They're so easy to use. We also got a really good visual of the interactive nature of those stores, the really kind of sleek modern design. The way the products are all outlined there or laid out for you to use. I also thought it was really interesting. That was a promo video for a particular store opening in China, and there was a big controversy around Apple factories, Apple product factories in China, based on an investigation that was run on the really popular, successful radio show This American Life. I can't remember what it was called, but the reporter's name was Mike Disney, and he did an expose on Apple factories saying that they employed underage workers, and the conditions were really horrible. It's really worth Googling and having a look at that controversy. So obviously that little promo was trying to kind of counteract some of the negative publicity that perhaps Apple encountered in the Chinese context. So a bit of reputation management there, perhaps on their behalf. So in terms of how a good reputation might be developed, well, we talked about doing the hard work, the ethical work, or the good work. And so one way of developing a good reputation is just simply by doing that good work, but it's a meretricious attainment of good reputation. In other words, the best companies have the best reputations. The company must also deliver an enjoyable and sound experience to stakeholders. So that's relying in part on external publicity, so online reviews, word of mouth, in-store experiences. So you might say that Apple's a good example of this, that they've got this good reputation because they're perceived to be doing pretty cutting-edge work, and their products are known to be quality. They're also delivering a good experience to stakeholders because the products are really easy to use. They're marketed as being very intuitive. Their experience in store and with their customer service is really sound. And yeah, so they're a leader in the marketplace. But thirdly, and we again touched on this, but the company must be able to project the information about the work they're doing to the public. So they need to be able to get the message out there about what it is that they're doing well. That might be as a result of internally driven publicity. So we've got that external publicity, which is the consumer getting the word out on behalf of the company because they've had a good experience. We've got that internally driven publicity, which is the company itself getting the word out there about what it is they're doing via media releases or social media updates on their activities or advertising, external advertising. This Harris-Fombrun reputation quotient. So it evaluates the reputation among multiple audiences, so in a range of contexts, according to 20 attributes. And these are grouped into what the quotient refers to as dimensions of reputation. So it categorizes these 20 attributes in these ways in terms of products and services. So it's looking at these in terms of the reputation, their ability to support and generate a good reputation, products and services, financial performance, workplace environment, social responsibility, vision and leadership, and emotional appeal. In other words, are the products quality? Is the service good? Is the company making money? Perhaps a part of that might also be, are the products affordable? Are they reaching a wide market? What's the workplace like? So if you've got a company that's creating really beautiful products and there's great staff working there, but the staff are really unhappy because they're lowly paid, they're overworked, the conditions are really terrible, then the reputation of that company is going to go down. How socially responsible is the company? So are they ethical in their practices? Are they reaching out to their local communities? Are they involving the community in their work? Are they visionary? Is there a strong CEO at the helm? And we'll look at the CEO in a little minute. And is there emotional appeal? So on some level, are they reaching their consumer emotionally? An example of that might be the Got Milk campaign, where they featured celebrities. Might be campaigns that feature animals, like the anti-fur campaigns, or children, families, anything that's going to make the consumer feel something about the products is going to help add to the reputation. Importantly, a good reputation resides in this push-pull between behaviour and performance and communication of that performance. So on one level, again, there needs to be really strong work going on within an organisation or a company, and then the ability to disseminate information about that good work. So it's no good for a company just to be doing good work away in isolation and never promoting itself. The reputation will stagnate, it won't develop and grow. And equally, it won't work if a company is simply promoting ideas about itself that aren't true. Equally, the reputation won't develop. We need both of those things to be working in symbiosis, so working together. The good work's happening and they're really strong on the PR, getting that message out there into the world. And we've said, that the company must possess a really quality relationship with its stakeholders to achieve those two ends. Companies that do pay attention to their stakeholders are going to be more successful financially. So working out what it is that their particular client base or consumer base require and need and are thinking, and then responding to that, those companies will be more successful because they're communicating with their stakeholders, they're responding to the needs of their stakeholders, they're being flexible, and they're having that relationship that's really foundational and fundamental to developing a good reputation. Treating them with respect and listening. So in a moment, well, maybe we'll have a look at it now. So I've got an example of this, of Domino's Pizza, of how they listened to their stakeholders and paid attention, had that relationship with them, and were successful as a result. Let's have a look at that now. We'll come back to it in a minute as well.
There comes a time when you know you've got to make a change. You can't lead a company like this unless you love food. I love food. I love pizza. It was about 50 years ago that they started the first store just about 5 miles from here.
Two brothers had a great idea, and they also said they wanted to get it delivered within 30 minutes, and that's something that no one said could be done. In fact, the first pizza delivery vehicle for our company is that vehicle right there. Around the 80s, we were exploding. We were the fastest growing company in the history of franchise business. Nothing had ever grown like that.
Now we're almost 9,000 restaurants around the world. We love what we do at Domino's.
Pizza, where's the love? How are it? Bread, sauce, cheese, fresh ingredients. Doesn't feel like there's much love in Domino's Pizza.
Domino's pizza crust to me is like cardboard.
Is it hard to watch and stuff?
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
I hear what some folks are saying about our stuff.
Oh, this sounds bad. Worst excuse for pizza I've ever had.
The sauce tastes like ketchup.
Totally void of flavor.
You know what? When you first hear it, it's shocking.
The cardboard complaint is the most common one.
This we hear over and over and over.
I mean, that hits you right in the heart. This is what we've done. This is what I've done, for 25 years now.
You can either use negative comments to get you down, or you can use them to excite you and energize your process of making a better pizza. We did the latter.
Most companies hide the criticism that they're getting, and we actually faced it head on.
Some people didn't get us credit for the taste of our product. That's what we're fixing.
We listen to our consumers, and they want us to be better, and we want them to be happier. We want people to love our pizza.
This is what's driving us. This is what's lit the fire under us. This is what's making us want to get better.
Who are we?
It's been crazy down here. We had our best chefs working hard to find the best combination, looking at 10 crust types, 15 sauces, dozens of cheeses.
You can't just add a little salt or add a little something to the recipe. I mean, we basically had to start over with a new recipe.
And they were working day and night and weekends to get it done.
This is Roxanne. She's one of the lead chefs for pizzas, and she's constantly trying new stuff, and she's saying, try this and try that. The day she put this in front of me, I said, dang, this is the real deal.
We changed everything. The crust, the sauce, the cheese. Now it tastes better.
We started working on the cheese.
We've got shredded cheese. Cheese. It's cheese. It's tastier. When you smell it, it's got an aroma to it. I mean, this is what cheese should be.
We started working on the sauce.
New sauce is bright. It's spicy. It's robust.
We've got garlic in here. We've got oregano. We've got basil. We've got and a little bit of red pepper just to tingle on your tongue.
It's a bold flavor.
When you bite into that, that's what pizza sauce should taste like.
We started working on the crust.
A nice, rich, buttery crust with some garlic and some herbs in there.
It gives it a nice finish for you. Great taste from the first bite to the last bite on every single slice.
Now we got great food. We've earned the swagger, right? We're going to do an end zone dance on this one. I can't wait to have people try it. And it's not even about being right. It's about us having great food.
No, it's about us being right.
And you know, I can't wait for Adrian to try our new pizza. So, I think she's going to be surprised.
We're going to bring her the new pizza, see how she likes it. She has no idea we're coming.
Hey,
Adrienne?
yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting example and a very clever response.
Hey guys, Jack Scalfani here, and today's a beautiful day. So, this is the day you've been...
A very clever response to the criticism that Domino's were obviously getting about their pizza. But they've done what we're suggesting here. So their reputation had slid. They hadn't done all of the necessary work, so they weren't doing the good work. They perhaps weren't even communicating what they were doing successfully, but then they did take steps to rectify it. They obviously held focus groups, and then they launched this great PR campaign, this pizza turnaround campaign. They paid attention to the stakeholders, and perhaps even more importantly, they began to communicate the good work that they were doing. And in this example, the communication was all about the fact that they were addressing stakeholder concerns. They were being responsive. Let's have a look at the components of reputation here. So reputation's there in the center, and these are the things that we talked about. You can see how they're all feeding in the emotional appeal, and the Domino's example is a clear example of that. Even in that advertisement, there's emotional appeal. We're seeing real employees be vulnerable about the work that they're doing. So there's a kind of a level of empathy there. There's vision and leadership. Well, we heard from the CEO. He was also being vulnerable and empathic, and talking about, the company's shortcomings, but also about his passion for the company. And there was some kind of authenticity in that. And there's vision and leadership also in terms of the fact that they were taking these difficult issues, these stakeholder concerns, and they were addressing them head on. And you saw those you saw the negative comments that they had actually printed out up on the wall of the kitchen. Financial performance, well, the company needs to be strong and making money. In the Domino's example, we don't know how how the failure or the slide of their reputation impacted the company, but we can only imagine that, I guess they did kind of address it when they said that there were 9,000 stores, so we know it's a strong company. I guess that would feed into that reputation. Workplace environment, that example again showed that, because it's obviously sort of a close and intimate and emotionally responsive workplace. We heard from all of the staff. We saw them doing their team building exercises. Social responsibility, well, they were engaging their community. And then the good products and services, and they were working on that. So I would say, just from that one example, they've got a strong company there. They're building their reputation as best they can. And this little model will apply to any company that's trying to build their brand or build their reputation. As we've said again and again, reputation is really the result of relationships, and it's a relationship between the company and its stakeholders primarily. PR or advertising or communication helps form and maintain the relationships, because it both gets the message out about what's going on in the company and listens to the stakeholders in terms of their concerns or feedback. PR also can encourage, or these relationships can encourage management to pursue socially responsible decisions, because pressure from consumers has a lot of weight. So if consumers who love a product but become concerned by its perhaps unethical behaviour of the company, thinking of perhaps cosmetic companies, there's become increasing pressure on cosmetic companies not to test on animals, and that's coming from consumers. So consumers can say, well, we love the product, but we're not going to buy it anymore if it continues to be tested on animals, and that can force the hand of management to change business practices, to behave in more socially responsible ways. A corporate reputation, again, relies on these things, and we've talked about these, so that the company has to have a moral standard or an ethical standard, treat staff well, be profitable and innovative, support good causes, be committed to consumers, have good products, reliable service, and that consumers feel good about purchasing those products, probably because of that ethical aspect to them. Also importantly, 50% of a company's reputation can be attributed to a CEO, so that strong leader, which is really interesting, and it made me think a bit about problems in politics, that, that a likable leader in the nation, in our nation or others, can really tarnish the reputation or the way that a whole nation is perceived. So you need to have that right leader at the helm in that political and national standpoint, but it's the same for companies as well, that the CEO really becomes the kind of figurehead or the public face of the company. Celebrity is not important, interestingly, but rather that stakeholders want someone who's reliable, who's believable, ethical, inspiring, caring, profitable, prescient, and a good communicator. So they don't have to be famous, they don't have to be flashy, they do have to seem authentic and real and trustworthy though. And someone who can communicate well what's going on in the company. The CEO also has to reflect the values of the organisation. If they're going to be the face of the organisation, then they need to align with the principles of that organisation. The leader needs to be supported from upper management, of course. There can't be any divisions within the workplace. And the work of the whole team has to be emphasised to the public, and that's exactly what that Domino's example were doing. They showed the CEO, but they also showed the real people he was working with, and that kind of generates a whole picture of the company. It's not saying there's just one dictator at the helm, but rather a visionary at the helm working with all of these inspired people. Suddenly the company goes from being the work of just one person to this collective, all of whom believe in the task at hand. Perhaps part of that, the strength of that idea is that while one person can be visionary and impressive, there's something even more kind of compelling about the idea that hundreds of workers perhaps will align behind the vision of a leader. We want to believe in the mass, not the one. It's really interesting to consider that PR has to, of course, carefully manage changes in leadership. So, especially when a reputation's kind of been closely tied, as we know it is, to one particular leader, if that leader moves on or for some reason leaves the role, then the communication about that to the public needs and to stakeholders needs to be very carefully managed, so that nobody gets concerned that the change in leadership is going to change the nature of the company. It's interesting to consider whether you can think of an organisation whose reputation has been really impacted by poor management, where there's been a company perhaps that's had a strong reputation, that's been going well, But then the decisions of the leaders have impacted it. I'm thinking a really obvious example might be something like what happened when the American government was impacted by Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky. You know, a PR nightmare like that can really impact the way that the whole parliament, if you like, is perceived. And suddenly the government's tarnished with this kind of shonky brush, whereas before they may have been perceived as strong, cohesive, good leadership. But when that happened with Clinton and it came out that, you know, he was perceived to be untrustworthy, it really kills the whole administration. Let's just hear quickly from Dr. Gary Davis on the importance of the CEO in reputation management. I love this quote. He says, let's start thinking about the CEO as the brand manager. Let's have a look at what he has to say.
So I'd like to talk about, when it comes to reputation management, is the CEO him or herself. About half of the reputation, so half comes from the employee, the other half will come from a media-friendly CEO. How do we know? Well, for example, we've measured the reputation of political parties and political leaders in the run-up to 2 general elections, and you can hardly tell the difference between the two. So when Willie Walsh comes on representing British Airways, or anybody comes on fronting for their organisation, the public assume that they are personifying the organisation. They are the organisation, and they would judge that organisation by how that CEO behaves, particularly